Thanks, Maggie. John, thanks. I really want to respond to each one of your individual points, and maybe I'll do that in a blog on reaction later, which I believe we're all encouraged to do. The one that I will say, though, is I was really struck by your point about what will make your mum proud. And just as maybe a provocative thing to start off with, I haven't told my mum that I'm coming here today. And I haven't told my sister or my dad either, but maybe you'll find out why in a second. And I think that's something for everybody here to think about today, about why maybe I wouldn't tell my mum that I came here today. I'm Alex Smith. I'm from North London Cares, South London Cares, now Manchester Cares, and as George talked about earlier, maybe soon Liverpool Cares, Birmingham Cares, East London Cares, etc. And I just want to start by telling you a story, which is that 7 years ago on General Election Day 2010, I was a council candidate in North London where I grew up, and I was doing my rounds, knocking on people's doors, trying to get people to come out and vote. And behind one of the doors, there was an elderly gentleman, about 85 years old, whose name was Fred. And I said to Fred, "Oh, hi, Fred, it's election day. Do you want to come out and vote?" And he said, "Oh, I'd love to, Alex, but I haven't been out." I'm sorry, this is my Scottish accent, and I always do this, and I should never do it because I just offend everyone. But he said, "Hi, Alex, I'd love to come out and vote. I've never missed an election in my whole life. But I haven't been out of my house for 3 months. I haven't spoken to anyone for 3 months. My carer comes in the morning, makes sure that I'm clean and fed, but I haven't really had a conversation with anybody and I can't come out and vote." And I was drumming up votes for myself, and I noticed a wheelchair behind him. So I said, "Oh, Fred, well, if you're comfortable, why don't you come out and vote if it means you're going to come out and vote for me?" And he was comfortable to do that. He got in his wheelchair. We went 2 minutes down the road. And it was a beautiful sunny day, and Fred said, "It's amazing to be out, it's amazing to have a conversation, not just with you, but the other people who I'm recognising on the street. Hello, so-and-so. If only I could get a haircut, because I haven't had a haircut for 3 months." And in his own words, he said he felt he'd lost his dignity. So the next day I thought the least that he could do, the least that I could do the next day, since he'd come out ostensibly to vote for me, although I lost my council election, Cleggmania happened to me, so maybe he didn't vote for me. But the thing that I thought I could do was I'd wheel him back down the road to the local barber shop and I'd help him to get a haircut. And as we walked in, the barber said, "Oh, hello, Alex," is the hairdresser I'd been going to for 15 years. "Oh, hello, Fred. Oh, Fred, is Alex your grandson?" And of course, Fred wasn't my granddad. I just met him serendipitously the day before. But while Fred was in the barber's chair, he started to elucidate. He started to tell me about his life. He'd travelled the world. He'd played at the London Palladium. He loved the Rat Pack. I loved the Rat Pack. He'd performed on the cruise ships. And most importantly to me, he had set up and run the shop that was my favourite shop growing up in Camden Town as a kid, Escapade. It's an old fancy dress shop, still there, but Fred sold it many years ago. And so I'd met Fred before, 20 years before, but I wouldn't have thought about it and just had this kind of serendipitous meeting with him. Anyway, that got me thinking that Fred, our friendship and our interaction gave me something, it gave him something in return. And I thought, in this big, globalised, Northern European, Western, capitalist, Thatcherite, individual society that we've created, somehow we have prioritised what's efficient in our political economy rather than what's important. And if you think about that, what that means is this morning on the train on the way here, I was struggling to get a ticket from a machine. I went into my reservation, which was in my iPhone. Previously, you might have spoken to Julie behind the desk and flirted a little bit or laughed a little bit or built a connection with somebody. On the way here, I bought a coffee from a machine. Before I got on the train, I got on a bus, tapped an Oyster card onto a machine. Last night when I was buying my dinner, I went to a self-service checkout. The connections that formerly were in communities have been over-efficientized, to invent a word maybe. And what we've done is we've created this way to save time constantly with digital technology, social media, etc. But we're not doing enough to spend it or to invest it by hanging out with other people and other people who are not like us. So to come on to what I did out of the interaction that I had with Fred, I built North London Cares originally, 4 years later South London Cares, now Manchester Cares, etc. We now have 4,000 young professionals in London, people who are just like me, with hundreds of connections in the social media age, but no roots in a community. And we have 4,000 older people often with deep roots in the community but no connections in the modern age because they're retired, because of bereavements, because of mobility difficulties. And we bring those groups together, often white-collar, well-educated, well-travelled, urban, metropolitan, liberal young people, with quite blue-collar, quite socially conservative, older people with quite different attitudes across social, generational, digital, cultural and attitudinal divides. We bring those two groups together for the benefit of both. It's not about young, do-gooding people helping older people. The disconnection issues that John's talking about, young people, older people over 75 are the loneliest demographic, the loneliest age group of people in the country. People between 21 and 35 are the second loneliest. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 35 in the country. 1 in 5 young mums feels lonely always. Loneliness is as bad for people's health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It brings on strokes, it brings on heart attacks, it brings on dementia. And it's younger people who are suffering from this as well. And I just thought that we've all become, we're social beings at the end of the day, and somehow the word social has come to mean a service of government. Social security, social housing, social care, social services. To my mind, the word social means people hanging out with people. And that's why we've created these networks where younger and older people hang out through Saturday night dance parties, new technologies workshops, back-to-work business visits where the older people go and hang out in big, tall glass buildings, and where the younger people who work in those glass buildings get to have a bit of an authentic connection with somebody in their own local community as well. And so just to kind of finish up, maybe we need, in a Darwinian sense, we need to interact with other people. The thing that defines us as humans is that we're empathetic. We can care about one another. And I think within a community context, that's particularly true. And just to finish up, maybe, I'm sure Brexit will come up a lot today, particularly with a speech later on in Florence. But if we think that we can fix these issues of disconnection in our connected age within our communities with a legal Brexit, and a deal in Brussels or a deal in Whitehall, then we have missed the fact that Brexit is a symptom of a wider malaise and is not the cause of it. And if we just think that we can have a legal Brexit and then go back to business as usual, then we've got another thing coming. So we really need to address these issues, and I hope we'll all have a big discussion about that today. So thank you.